we have worked with LiveRamp in a number of ways, but me personally, I've worked with LiveRamp for about the last 3 years. They were vital to us building out the weather effects product. We're dynamically geo-targeting audiences based on weather, but all we're doing is providing a location signal based on, hey, the weather is, in these zip codes, the weather is sunny. These zip codes is rainy. So that's all we're saying. Like, here's the zips where it's rainy. So how that manifests into a traditional audience, cookie-based, ad ID, user-based, et cetera, is there's a disconnect. So what LiveRamp's done for us is we pass weather by zip to LiveRamp. They group it into identity link-based segments and push those into the DSP space. So we built that with them about 3 years ago, and that was the foundation of our weather effects business. We've since evolved it to have integrations with many DSPs and Facebook and Google and out of home, Vistar. But LiveRamp is foundational in building that business. And then we also have some other things we do with LiveRamp in the audience space. So we have a Watson machine learning modeling capability within LiveRamp's identity link space that we sort of co-sell with LiveRamp. So we basically have two products that are intricately linked with LiveRamp.
So there's a huge amount of change happening in this space.
Yes.
At this point in time. What's your sense of the mood of the nation here in Q1 2020 with cookies on the way out, lots of concerns around trust and privacy, consent up for grabs, all these sorts of things really in flux.
Right.
Where is the industry today in your judgment?
Yeah, it's interesting because I think what's nice is that we're seeing a lot of people just say I don't know, like I don't know what the answer is, which is sometimes rare in this world. And what I think is also, what we're dealing with is no one's ever been in love with cookies, right? No one's ever been in love with some of the solutions we have, but they were kind of necessary, right? They were necessary to generate an audience. They were necessary, we see all these manifestations. And so what I'm encouraged by is, as someone who's kind of bought and sold a lot of audiences and painfully aware of some of the challenges and pitfalls in those, in that category, I'm really excited about what we're doing. We're getting better understanding in the consumer world of how all this stuff works. We're cleaning up the stack, the supply chain. We're removing redundancy. We're getting better personalization without being creepy, and of course removing cookies, which is obviously a major move. And a lot of people, I don't know if it necessarily splits the room. I don't think anyone's publicly but I'm sure a lot of people are. But you have responses that are, okay, cookies go away, now what? And fortunately for us, we've been preparing for it for a long time. We have products on the media, data, and tech side that are future-proofed against this type of thing. So we're ready for it and prepared for it, and I think it's really good for the industry. So that's kind of, I know that's a long-winded answer, but that's kind of where my head's at. I think in general, there's still much to debate and to observe on the sort of common conversation is, all right, so now we're going to just get rid of the cookie and we're going to tie everything to an email address, right? And we're going to tie it to, we're going to have maybe a smaller handful of, identifiers, which is good, right? Going from boatload of cookies to a single-digit number of identifiers, that's progress. That's probably not a complete solution, but you have that on the ad tech side. We're great, we're going to get to an email address and we're just going to attach signals to an email as opposed to a cookie. Well, as a consumer, do I want to give my email to everyone? Do I, that's even more PII than the cookie. So, I see a world where it's not, okay, great, we just work with a small number of vendors to tie everything to an email address and then you've got a unified ID. I think it's a little more complicated than that, and we're going to see, a possible outcome is less personalization, more contextual in ways that we haven't considered it before, things like weather and other signals like that are more responsive as opposed to user-based.
What's your sense of how the wider publishing community is dealing with these changes? Obviously, you mentioned IBM's scale and resources and the tremendous technology assets and capabilities they're able to bring to bear in supporting your part of the business.
Yeah.
Other publishers not always in that position.
Yeah.
What's your sense of how they're dealing with the similar problem?
Yeah, well, I think it's interesting because there's a long tail of publishers that are probably worried about this, right? What's interesting though is you've already had a lot of consolidation in the pub space, right? So look at who we're talking about, right? If you look at Meredith, Hearst, and a handful of others, Condé, of course, you've got that's a good amount of all the publishers out there, right? So then you ultimately have, there's of course like is a duopoly, which is becoming a triopoly with Amazon, Google, Facebook, Amazon, and then you have really some major publisher houses as well. And so that long tail is becoming more and more consolidated, and there continues to be exciting acquisitions of the smaller guys that are really valuable and promising are getting gobbled up by the bigger guys. So if I'm a small publisher right now, I'd be looking to, kind of hitch my wagon to a Conde or someone like that, so I can, have that, scale of being a part of a bigger player. Because then you could have a world where it's, there's a handful of major pub IDs and then the triopoly, and that's kind of it. And they're all tied to an IDL or, whatever, platform ID. That could work. So I guess that's where I see it. From our side, we do a ton of business in the programmatic space on the sell side, and so we're sort of like just trying to be functional with however it shakes out.